thanks for the invitation. It's been great to be here for the past few days. I've stole the headline for this little talk from this piece of paper. It reads, Commune betyder fællesskab, or Commune means community. And I'll try to elaborate a bit on that. Just shortly, a few words on myself. I've spent the past 10 years at Monday Morning, the leading Scandinavian think tank, where I headed the welfare department for the past 5 years. And just now, 7 weeks ago, started a new adventure with a new business. Together with one of my old colleagues. We call it Beta, and there's been a few of you already asking why Beta. And it's obviously it's a word borrowed from the world of computers and everything, where it basically means a prototype. And I've used the word before as a picture of also of our society and many of the welfare organizations that you're in and that I'm working with and that we all know. Because Beta means that it's something that is in process. Or particularly, it might mean that it's on the way to something better. And I think that's a good way to look at our society. Even though we're praised in the Scandinavian countries for having perhaps the best of all societal models, still I think that we can easily agree that there's quite a lot of issues that we really don't tackle well, or not well enough at least. So could we look at our society as something that's in beta, in progress, on the way to something better? It exists, you can go and try it, it works, sort of, but it's also broken and we need to work with the ambition that we are on our way to something more and something better. And I think that's important to say that that's not all about the money. There is a true fiscal pressure, yes, but even if we had all the money in the world, there's a lot of problems that we really don't know how to tackle. Loneliness could be one issue in all age groups. Different kinds of violence or abuse. A third of all young Danes between the age of 18 and 30 have tried to harm themselves. Nobody really knows why, and more, nobody knows really what to do about it. There are so many things where we can't really claim that if we just had more money and were able to do more of the things we do already, things would be solved. It's too simple, we know it, and that's what we've been talking about really for the past days. So let's try to forget about the question of, oh, we need the money and the fiscal pressure is so high. Yes, it is. But it's also a good starting point, basically, to say, yes, there's a big pressure. That's why we need to do something differently. And we had to do something differently, even if we had all the money in the world. Because we've come to a place also, that's also part of the problem. Sometimes in Danish I would refer to this as hegnssynsproblemet, or the problem of fences, right? If there's a problem in this country or in our society, it's always the municipality's problem. If my neighbor builds a fence and it's higher than I think it should be, what do? I call the municipality. And they might ask, have you talked to your neighbor? And I say, no, that's why I'm calling you, so that you can talk to my neighbor. And then, now it's your problem, right? So the fact that we have come to a state of society where we basically, if there's a problem of any kind, first thing you do is you call it the local authorities. And you involve them instead of involving the relationships where that problem is really going on. And I think this is obviously said with a smile. But I think we can move that way of thinking into a lot of other areas and see, that's part of the problem. And the fact that we've come to a place where we've focused on how can we produce more and more of the same and do it more and more efficiently. Where we basically need to ask the question of what if we're just doing the wrong things and need to go somewhere else. And I think in many ways we can say that this is a pendulum swinging back and forth. And basically, the big challenge, as I see it, is that in many ways we're moving back towards something we once knew, which is based much more on local communities and relationships between people. But how do we do that at the same time as not letting go of the past 30, 40, 50 years of professional development and experience? Because obviously, even though in many ways, I would argue that the past 30, 40, 50 years of professional development has brought us to the fence problem. Obviously, a lot of good things has happened, and we know much more about what works and what doesn't and everything. So how do we combine these two things? The fact that we're moving back towards a more local, community-based model we once knew before we built a big welfare system. But then at the same time, keep all that we now know that we didn't know before. So a lot of the things that I'm saying, you could definitely argue that that's old wine on new bottles, or new wine on old, or whatever it is. Yes, because that's the whole thing. We know what it is we need to do. We just need to figure out how can we do it in the system we've now built. Luckily, I think that, and that's also why I think both Jakob and I mentioned this little piece of paper, is that the word Commune, municipality in Danish, actually guides us quite a lot. And on the back side of this, there is a little abstract from what's the meaning actually of the word Commune. And basically, Commune is via the French commune, but it stems from Latin. And it basically means together, common task, or together around a task. And that's why I said that's the whole thing. The word tells us what it is, and I'm using the word Commune, but obviously some of you are coming from educational organizations or regions or whatever. I think it's the same thing, but the word Commune that is so fundamental in our welfare system actually guides us. So basically the big question here is, so what task or what tasks is it that we're together around, and how do we want to be together around these tasks? And that's obviously also a big political discussion that we're some places we're beginning to have these things. And in many ways, I think we should basically just say goodbye to the Commune, at least in the sense of this. Commune, that's the town hall. And you can hear a lot of people saying it, but also, at least in the way they talk, that's what they mean, right? If I'm a principal at a local school, if I say, oh, it's the people in the Commune, then it's the people at the town hall. Even though I'm also employed by the very same organization, and it's the very same letterhead that's on our papers and on our doors, then as a principal, I'm not the Commune. They are at the town hall, right? So the Commune as this or as this, let's leave it. That was an input to the process, but let's say hello to the community, or at least that way of thinking about our public service organizations and our societies. So instead of having this picture or this picture represent what a commune means, what a municipality means, let's use this or this. And that's what it's about. How we live our lives together in the local communities, and we see a number of municipalities around who are trying to move in this direction. The CEO of Skanderborg Commune, Lisbeth Binderup, has said it well. Remember that the municipality, the Commune, is not the 6,000 employees in that municipality. It's the 50,000 citizens. You can even argue that it's more than that, because the 50,000 citizens, they are the ones who live in Skanderborg. Then what about the rest of us who might pop by for the festival or whatever, or who might work in Skanderborg? Can we be part of that community as well, even though we don't live there? I think the community of Skanderborg is even bigger than 50,000. But at least if we define the commune or the municipality as the 6,000 employees, then I think we are on a wrong track. And luckily we see other municipalities doing the same things. Assens Commune on the island of Hyllegaard is trying as well, and have tried to launch as one of their strategic initiatives what they call Assens Community, spelled with a K. So it's a little Danish around there, and basically trying to say that how can we as a local government think in the way of a community when we design our services, when we manage everyday life, when we teach our employees new skills. Could it be these kind of skills? And basically I think in many ways it's about leaving the idea of always putting the system and us as a municipality in the center. And also, when we talk about relations, I hear a lot of municipalities saying, oh, we cooperate a lot and we do a lot about partnerships, and oh yes, we have relations to all kinds of different organizations. But in my opinion, it's almost always bilateral corporations, where we as a municipality work together with the healthcare system, or we work together with some of our local businesses, or we work together with some of our families. But it's always bilateral, and it's always from a systems point of view. We would like to collaborate here, in this way, and we would like you to be a volunteer here, but only between 4 and 8 o'clock in the evening. The rest of the day, it's not allowed, right? And I think we have to move basically to move away from the center and put ourselves out in the periphery of the things that are going on. And could we have a vision of basically being, as a system, being as remotely relevant to as many citizens as possible, not because we don't take responsibility for the tasks, but basically because people don't need us. They're much better off without us than they are with us. And we should not try to control all the relations. Get away, move aside. And basically trying to teach ourselves, our managers, our employees, to step back. And not always step forward and accepting the fact that if there's a problem, it's our problem. Because when I said that earlier, basically, it's nobody's fault and it's everybody's fault, right? We've all come as citizens, as professionals, as politicians, whatever, we've come to accept the fact that if there's a problem, oh, that's too bad. The municipality needs to do something about it. Could we instead step back and say, oh yeah, I can see that there's a problem. Who could do something about it? I don't know. What should be done about it? I don't know. But perhaps we can steer that process instead of always taking responsibility for all the problems that are there. And see what's going on in the communities. And a lot of things are going on. Urban gardening, just to say one thing. This picture is from Nørrebro in Copenhagen. I was out running the other day on the harbor of Aarhus. We have Aarhus Ø, and you have a huge community gardening thing where people are just reconnecting in a different way. And it's very important that the people sitting at the town hall or wherever they're sitting, that they don't put their standards and try to steer an urban and gardening community from a system standard. The grass can be however high people want it to be, right? Let it grow, basically, instead of trying to control it. This is a school on Nørrebro in Copenhagen as well, where, I mean, if we go to, I have family in Western Jutland and go there quite a lot. You can go to wherever, or even the area that I'm living in outside of Copenhagen. Every house has its own trampoline, right? It's becoming the main sports of Danish youth. If you live in an apartment in a big city, you don't have a trampoline. The school could have one, or have 3, 4. Could they share them? Yes. Should a schoolyard be something that we hide in the back? Or should it be something that is shared with the community? they have quite good success with actually sharing their resources this way. Or even just technology enabling us to do micro-volunteering in different ways. Some of you might have heard of the fantastic Danish app and company called Be My Eyes. Now I don't have my phone, but basically the idea is that you or anybody could help a person who cannot see with small tasks during the day, just by them opening the fridge, taking out the milk, not being able to see the date on the milk, taking their phone, asking for help, your phone beeping, you saying, it's good, 2 more days, fine, you can drink it. And that's it. It takes 3-4 seconds, but you've done a lot of help, and they can live independently. They don't need to wait for the municipality to come and help them. No, let's help each other out. Technology enables this, okay? And perhaps, this is a Friday morning, so just to spark you up, perhaps we could, and I mean, in many ways this is a sad day, not where it's hard to talk about community. We're divided, Europe is divided and everything, but perhaps we could even go bigger still and almost call for a Kennedy approach. Ask not what your commune can do for you. Ask what you can do for your commune. And I know we're not there yet. And I know that we're, at the same time, we have different approaches that are existing side by side. And yes, we still have wishes and demands, and we pay our tax and that, and because of that we want something in return, yes. But could we move it away from just being a monetary exchange where I pay my tax and then I get something in return? That's a poor society if it's only a fiscal transaction that's going on. So, how can a municipality work with community? Well, I think there's a lot of ways to work with it, and just for the sake of simplicity, we could call it something, different names. The outside in, where we invite the community in to the institutions or places we have. That was what Mette and Trine were talking about yesterday from Skansebergen. That's very much about inviting people in, looking at ourselves and see, is this a home? Or is it an institution or a workplace? Could it be more of a home? Could it be more welcoming? Could we open ourselves more to outsiders? And what could that give to us as an organization? But not least, obviously, to the people who live here, who live their life here, or at least part of it. There's an elderly care home in Hyllegaard outside of Copenhagen, where a group of young mothers needed a place to come for their mother's group. All of them lived in small apartments. They didn't have the space for 6 mothers and 6 babies. So one had the clever idea of asking the local elderly home, could we meet at your place? And yes, they could. And it started out as their group. Now it's an open group. I think it's either every week or every second week. There's an open Facebook group. All mothers in or around Hyllegaard can show up. It's a great success. It's self-organized, and it's good for all parts. There's mothers who get a helping hand. Oh, please, can I go to, I have small children, right? Oh, can I just get rid of my kid just for 5 minutes and go to the bathroom or have a cup of coffee? Or could we tell each other stories about different generations and what it means to have children, or how was it before and how is it now, and what could we learn from each other? Great success. Or even all the different examples we see about participatory budgeting, where we invite people in to take some of the decisions that are ours as a system, and actually give out little sums of money to basically spark engagement and say, we don't know how to tackle loneliness in our municipality. It's very costly, both in people's lives and on the public budgets. We don't know, we don't have a clue about what we should do about it. So could we invite people in to help us figure out good solutions and give out small proportions of money? Yes, to the good ideas that comes up. if there's an outside or an outside in, obviously there's also an inside out way, which is about inviting yourself and your institution out in the local community. I worked with what do you call it? Anbringelsesområde, when kids are placed outside of their homes, with an institution in Eastern Jutland here. They had a skate ramp. It was placed, logically, behind the institution. They owned the ramp. Nobody used it. Then, for some reason, nobody really knows why, the ramp got moved from behind the institution, where nobody used it, and now up in front of the institution in a little city called Hornsyld. What happened? Some of the kids from the community, not those placed outside their homes, started using the skate ramp. What happened next? Some of the kids at the institution started using the skate ramp. So, what happens then? Relationship starts to build. Is it an easy process? Well, the part of moving the skate ramp is pretty easy. Part of building relationships takes time, yes. But how can we take the resources we have, resources also meant as things, how can we share them? The trampolines before was another example, right? How can we share them with the local community? They paid for it already, right? How can we share these things with more people around us, and that way build stronger relationships for and with the citizens that are ours? There's an elderly care in Åbenrå Commune in southern Jutland, a fairly new one called Riseparken, where the manager, her vision and her strategic mark or aim for that elderly care is basically that they want to be the neighbor that you can come and borrow a cup of sugar from. So picture yourself Thursday night baking cake for your sons or daughters, schools, whatever, and you're out of sugar. Where do you go? Obviously, you go next door to the elderly home. They're always open. There's always somebody there. There's a big kitchen. They have tons of sugar. Can you come and borrow a cup of sugar? Yes, you can. So how, and that's obviously both an outside in and an inside out in the same way. But how can we be somebody for the neighborhood around us? And how can that create lively surroundings, the place we work with? And it might even, and this is to get you up of the chairs and dancing in a second, it might even be just trying to tell a different story about what it is we do and what it means to be in the municipality. This little video is a music video that the Swedish city of Helsingborg made to try to attract newcomers or new people into the elderly care. Try to watch this. This is obviously done in a satirical way, but I really like this video, and it just continues on. It's hilarious. It's 3.5 minutes long, so we won't see all of it now. But I mean, how can we tell that kind of stories about what it is we do? I mean, how many of you go to work with Superman costumes on? Could we do more of that and spark engagement around what we do? I think we can. Right? We can show all of it in the break afterwards. Obviously, there's another way as well that might be combined with the others. And actually, looking back on the past 3 days, I think this is one of the things that we should talk even more about, and I hope we can talk even more about it today. Not so much about our relations as a system to the professionals, but the relationship among the citizens, the peer-to-peer. And basically, as Mette and Trine from Skansebakken yesterday also said, we shouldn't be the relationship. It should be somebody else. You shouldn't be a friend with the municipality. No. Hopefully not. Hillary talked about it with the circles. This is a picture from Southwark and that circle. And that's the same thing. How can people be something for each other? This little video, I'll play it without sound, at least very low sound. This is a video of Khaled. Khaled, he's a 22-year-old guy, originally from Syria. Now he lives in Odder, south of Aarhus. Just leave it. He went to the Lær Dansk, or Learn Danish course. The Learn Danish course always uses English as the second language that you use to help with. But a lot of the newcomers, they don't speak English. And for political reasons, it's not so easy to use Arabic as a second language. But Khaled, he's a clever young guy. Now he's a YouTube star because he started a YouTube channel which is called Learn Danish in Arabic. So he basically teaches whoever want to listen how to speak Danish using Arabic as his native tongue, as a second language. He's been all over the news. There's quite a lot of thousands who actually see this video, and some of the Learn Danish courses, even though they don't admit it, are actually starting to use his videos. Because you have the full textbook online, free to use, in Arabic. Ooh, what's not to like? And think about Khaled. I mean, he's taking an education here in Aarhus. He's definitely going to be an advantage for the Danish society, both in and of himself, but also through the immense impact he's done on some of his countrymen. Another example, also from the UK. Have you heard of the organization called Keyring? Keyring is a UK charity, London-based, has existed since 1990. It's basically a supported living network. The model in itself is pretty simple. You take 10 apartments in the city, ordinary homes, people who need support, live in 9 of them. And they help each other out and meet up regularly. Then you have a community volunteer who lives in the 10th apartment and who help the 9 others connect and help them with reading the bills, forms, letters, whatever it is, and explore what it is that's going on around there. So instead of making an institution and have 9 vulnerable people living here, put aside from the rest of the community, could we basically move it out there? Obviously, in a connection, with support, but not necessarily support from the municipality, but support from each other. And basically assuming that what one person is able to do might be something the other person needs, and what that person needs, and then the math goes on, right? So can we basically assume that everybody has some capabilities, some resources? They might not have what they need themselves, but they have something they can contribute to others. And Tracy, who's one of the directors at Keyring, says this: I think our networks are so valuable because they're based on reciprocity. The experience of not only receiving help, but also to help others and contribute to the local community. That's essential. And I think she's right. This word, reciprocity, gensidighed, øjenhøjde. How can we build on that? Niels Åkerström, who's a professor at the Copenhagen Business School, has said, I think quite correctly, about what's going on in many of the Danish municipalities, that he's seeing it as one-way invitations for reciprocity. We as a system would like to have reciprocity, but only here and now. So how could we move to a more genuine reciprocity, where we basically open up and try to reconnect both us as a system to others, but also try to help people reconnect or connect in an equal way. And basically, I just the other day saw a TED talk by a British guy called Cormac Russell, who is excellent at giving out good quotes. When I gave a talk last year, I used one of his other quotes, which is, "Get a life, not a service." Now he presented a new one to me just the other day. Ask what's strong, not what's wrong, in both people and communities. And I think that's also part of the problem with our system, is that we've built a system that's always looking for what's wrong. And we all have deficiencies. There's so many things none of us can do, or it's different things. But none of us can do everything, luckily. Nobody's perfect. So can we start meeting people with saying, what is it that you're good at? What is it that you're dreaming about? Where did you come from? Instead of always looking for what is it that you're not able to do, hence that we as a system need to help you with, because you can't do it. The Danes of you will have seen this guy before. The rebellion from Langeland, a local municipality manager, basically saying, I only care about a relationship. Diagnosis, to hell with them. I can't use it for anything. The only thing that matters in my work is relationships. My relationship to the citizens, but also the citizens' relationships to each other. That's all that matters. I don't care about anything else. And I think not judging whether he's the perfect example or whether all he's done is right or wrong, but that rebellion attitude, I must say I quite like it. And I think that generally, and this will be my last 3 points, is that speaking about peer-to-peer and the relationship between people, I think that we need to recognize the value of people's relationship to each other. In schools, students learn more if the group works well. Some experts say without them basically thriving and engaging, there's no learning. It makes no sense to talk about learning without talking about relations to the other students and the teacher first. So we need to really recognize the value and importance of relationships if we care about outcomes. Second, we need to be curious about the relationships that people live their lives in, or could live their lives in, or want to live their lives in. So be curious and learn new ways to understand and analyze the networks that people are in, or could be in. And third, and this is difficult, we need to figure out how we as a system can work in and with these relationships. That's what matters. If you look at the anthropological studies trying to look at the good life, what defines the good life? The best definitions say that everybody wants to be something for somebody else. The good life is something we live in relations to others. So how can we build on that? How can we work with that? I think that's the thing that we need to be curious about and recognize the importance and value of. Thanks.